I don't even need this. But we're going to do it anyway. Hey, y'all. Hey. What's up? Mom's feeling a little feral today. Anything could happen in here in this session. I see I got my squad. I made some of them come. I did threaten to end friendships. But, you know, it worked out, right? So we're going to keep it informal. I like that you guys are sitting so close so we can talk. We can talk like family, right? I don't see any people that are not like us, as Kendrick would say, that don't work here, rather. So we're gonna talk like family, and we have these brilliant panelists. But I would also like to hear your stories because, you know, what is the cheat code of survival when Black contributions are being actively erased or trying to be? The cheat code is always going to be community, right? We survive because we've always had each other and had each other's back. So that's what we're going to do today. My name is Claudia Love Mair. I am the coordinator of the Kentucky Black Writers Collaborative. If you are not taking free classes, come take free classes. That's what we're here for. And I have a panel of brilliant writers. And listen, Mom's fallen in love. Mom's attention span is not all here. I forgot to get everybody's bios, though I know them. I know all of them. I have put all of them to work. But if you told me to tell what their bios are, I'd be like, you know what, I'm gonna let them talk. So that's what we're gonna do. So, also, I am a multiply published writer, from traditional publishing to a small indie publisher. I've got a lot of experience in the publishing world and in the writing world. Now, I'm gonna turn it over to Samar X. Johnson, who they will tell you about themselves.
Hi, everybody. I am Samar. I am about to be published. My book is coming out in November of this year. I'm very excited. It's with Finishing Line Books, and it is my first full-length poetry collection. So I'm very, very excited about that. My interest in writing is, of course, Black Southern Gothic, you know, which I feel like is just Black Black stories, you know, but, you know, adding the Southern Gothic, you know, gives it a little bit of a label to put into another box for people to sell it to another person. But we all understand what that means. And I live here in Lexington. I've been writing my whole life, but I would say that I'm newer to owning being a writer, which I am sure I am not alone in this room with claiming that descriptor. So I'm gonna give it to the next panelist.
Good afternoon. I'm Dorian Hairston. I am the author of Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow, the story of Josh Gibson, which is a collection of poems about Josh Gibson, who is the greatest baseball player to ever play the game. He died in January of 1947 of a brain tumor, which is significant because Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier of Major League Baseball. 3 months later, April 15th of 1947. I received my MFA from the University of Kentucky. I am new faculty. This is my first time at the Governor's School for the Arts. Yes. So I am skipping one of the trainings, and my colleagues are going to catch me up when I get back to be here, which I wouldn't trade for the world. And I'm really looking forward to some productive discussion about what publishing looked like for us.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon again. My name is Nita Clarke, and I'm from the bayous of Louisiana. I've been here in Lexington for the last 26 years, and I have 3 books on the market right now. Mint Julep Day 1, which is, the genre is historical humor romance, if there's such a thing. I've written The Residents of Alabaster Court, which is a murder mystery. And then my children's book, Timothy and the Blanket Fairy, which I wrote way back in 1974 and redid it in 2023. So it's on the market as well. And I am so proud to be a member of the Black Writers Collaborative. I almost said Black Catholic Church.
I mean,
That's it. Thank you so much.
okay, so this session is writing and publishing while Black. So the first thing we're going to deal with is writing. And we are going to let Mama Toni take it away. Thank you, Z. Woo! Let's talk about the white gaze. I'll go first. In 2004, I was a very, very sweet Jesus freak, and I just wanted to write for Jesus. I read Christian fiction and did not see myself anywhere in those pages. I was poor. We got the food stamps and the Section 8. My husband was addicted to drugs. Nobody was on drugs in Christian fiction, not those white people. And I suffered from mental illness, and I was chronically physically ill as well. I was not the type to be in Christian fiction. Though I did find at some point that there was like drinking fountains. There was a colored drinking fountain in Christian fiction, and there was a white drinking fountain. And I definitely didn't think I would be drinking from the white fountain. One day, my husband needed surgery, and we had to take the bus to the hospital. We didn't have a car. This is how poor we were. We were also poor in spirit, not in a good way, in which we did not even have a friend to say, hey, can you take us to the hospital? You know, he's got to have surgery. And so we took the city bus to his surgery. It was an outpatient surgery. And when they took him back, I used to work at that hospital. I wasn't working because the symptoms of fibromyalgia had just come up, and I was unable to work at the time. But I used to work at that hospital, so I went right to the chapel. Anne Lamont says there are 3 great prayers: help, thanks, and wow. And my prayer that day was help. I was right about to turn 40. I felt like I had nothing to show for my life. I had already by this time, after being a high school dropout, had gone back to school and gotten a bachelor's degree. No car, no friends, no money, drug-addicted husband, no job, nothing to show for my life. So I go to the chapel and I say, help. Then I go back downstairs. This is before everybody had cell phones, and if they did, I wouldn't have had one at the time. I look at the table near magazines. There's a copy of Today's Christian Woman, a black woman on the cover. If you know anything about today's Christian woman, it's not a thing anymore. It only had white people in it. So the fact that not only was there a black woman, she was on the cover. It was Sherry Shepherd from The View. I said, what? And I picked it up, and I read everything in that magazine. I'm telling you, I read the classified ads in that magazine. And then I stole it. And on the bus, I read it again. Then I got home and I read it that night. And I said, Jesus, if you would just let me write for you, I promise I'll tell people like me that you love them. That was my prayer. But I knew I did not fit the profile. So I said, well, you know what? Everybody's blogging now. It's 2004. Blogger was a big deal. This was before everybody and their cat had a blog. I said, I'll start a blog. I'll tell the truth. about what it is to be a person like me who loves Jesus, somebody that I'm not seeing in the books. What do I have to lose? People will read it or they won't, but at least I can be honest, which I'm not gonna lie, there wasn't a lot of honesty in Christian fiction. Might still not be. I don't read it now. I'm a heathen now. But anyway, so I started blogging. I started, I think, the next day. I called my blog Ragamuffin Diva. And I was just going to tell the truth about a hot mess spiritual journey. I told about 5 people, hey, I started this blog. But they told people. And those people told people. And back then, you can link somebody else's blog to yours. And so some very influential white Christian writers began to link my blog to theirs. The next thing I know, I had 10,000 readers. And because I was telling the truth. I was saying the quiet part out loud. And people resonated with that because they weren't finding it. They weren't finding it. And I got a cold email one day from a man. He says, my name's Don Pape. I'm the vice president of Waterbrook Press, an imprint of Random House. Will you write a book for us? Yeah, right? Not gonna let that go. At that time, I had also started working with this agent. She had a contest. You do 100 pages. If she picks your book, she'll spend the weekend with you with a dozen writers, and she'll tell you everything she knows about publishing. This black woman. And I found out about the contest on Friday. You better believe those 100 pages were at her office Monday morning. Fortunately, her office was in Detroit, where I lived, and I got those pages to her door. And so she took an interest in me, and I did spend that weekend with her, a dozen of us. And she needed the full manuscript. All I had was the 100 pages. So I get this cold email, and this white man says, will you write for us? Now, I started talking about the novel that I started with Denise. He wasn't interested in that. It was too black. So I started making up stuff. I didn't do anything, I wasn't working. I didn't even have cable, so we had a Hollywood video around the corner, so I just getting CSI videos. I had started a master's degree in psychology, and I'm trying to think, what do I know anything about? I know a lot about CSI. I knew a lot about psychology. And, it was going to be a dude. Of course it was going to be a fine man. So that's what I said. I'm just making up stuff. And he was like, yeah, send me that. So I tell my friend Mary, I said, Mary, he said, send it. He said, you better get writing. You better start writing. And I started writing. So I got him a proposal in 3 chapters. And if you know publishing, usually you have to have a full manuscript to turn in a novel. You can get by with a proposal for nonfiction, but novel, they want to see the whole thing. Well, I was very fortunate. And so he was like, I love it, I want it, keep writing. Now, he was the vice president. He was not the acquisitions editor. He was not the senior editor. So he's like, I don't want to step on his toes. You just write, I'm going to be advocating for you. So I keep writing. And then I see the senior editor in Publishers Weekly. And he's saying that black people will not do well in CBA. That's the Christian Booksellers Association. It's like the Christian version of the American Booksellers Association. So he's saying black books will not do well in Christian bookstores, unless you're a preacher. He's talking about novels. Unless you have a multicultural cast. What does that mean? What y'all think multicultural meant? Yeah, you put some white people in there. So here, this opportunity of a lifetime just falls on my happy little head. And I don't have the full for Denise. He's saying, write it. I want it. So what would I do? I wrote it. I gave it to him. I said, hey, your boys in PW talked about black people aren't going to make it. And honestly, he had a point. I didn't know that then. And so there I was, writing for the White Drinking Fountain. And that wasn't my intent. I was broke, and I wanted an opportunity. Like everybody in this room, we want our books to go out. We want our poems, our music. We want it to be published, heard, seen. So when Denise found out that this was happening, she had nothing more to do with me. She completely severed our relationship. I think she believed I'd sold out when I was simply just trying to have an opportunity. And so I finished the book in about 4 months, and this was Murder, Mayhem, and a Fine Man. And right after I turned it in, Don said, I have to leave this company. It's very conservative. Don was not conservative. He said, I have to leave this company. I cannot help you. It was like that episode of Good Times when they're right about to get out the hood. Right, exactly. Right about to get out the hood. And then all of a sudden, it all falls apart. And damn. Throw that punch bowl. It was what it was, right? That's kind of a black story, just like on Good Times. So about 3 weeks later, he contacted me. He said, so hey, I'm a literary agent now. I want to sell your book. He landed in the biggest Christian literary agency in the country. And so did I. Me and Michelle McKinney Hammond. Anybody know who that is? It was just me and Michelle. And that's how I got that. Did I write toward the white gaze? You better believe I did. Because I knew what drinking fountain I was at. If I had an attention span, I'd pull up one of my early reviews that a white person wrote. The review was about 3 sentences long. It was a 5-star one. That was nice. She must have said I was black 4 times in that review. So I showed it to a friend of mine. I said, what do you get out of this review? She said, you black? That's what I got out of it too. And you could not believe the microaggressions. There are no sex scenes in any of my Christian novels. There are no sex scenes in anything I've written. Mom just didn't have it like that. But people walked up to me. I was nominated for a Christie Award, one of 3 black people in the history of the Christie Awards. And a woman walked up to me and said, I just love how sexually free black people are. I was like, what? I said, what? There was no sex. None.
Wow.
In that book.
She was living a fantasy.
But later, speaking of people that live in a fantasy, the entire series was canceled by the publisher because they said they're too sexy. I said, it ain't no sex in there. And they were like, well, yeah, but they want to. Like in the Song of Solomon. I'm gonna tell you the truth. They was doing it in the Song of Solomon. Y'all read that. Don't let people tell y'all.
Okay.
So oh, there's some shady people in the Bible. Anyway, so they canceled the series. They wanted me to pay back the entire advance.
Oh, wow.
I happen to have an agent who was a beast, and he was like, no. In fact, he didn't even tell me that they wanted the entire advance back. He didn't tell me for years that he negotiated that I don't pay it all. I had to pay $10,000 back. That hurt my feelings, y'all. I told y'all I was broke to write a $10,000 check, and I had already spent that money, all of it. He said, I said, they wanted the second series because I got a 6-book deal out the gate. And they were like, well, we're canceling this one, but we want the other one. And I said, oh no, you'll never get another word out of me. So we were at a standstill. And I ended up, my agent said, I'll sell your books to someone else, and I'll get you the advance, a bigger advance, so you can pay that check. And he did exactly that. Then I had to buy all the books that were left in the warehouse. I couldn't sell those books. I had to donate them, so I donated them to a women's prison. Publishers are businesses. I don't care how much they say praise the Lord and hallelujah. They are all businesses. They are all about a bottom line. It would do you well never to forget this. So I wrote Toward the White Gaze because I thought that was necessary. And eventually I was shut out of that very market until I learned to trust my own blackety black voice. Something that I would ask all of you to do. Now I want to go to my friends, and let's talk about writing toward the white gaze. Any experience you may have had, you may have heard of, in which you felt like somebody wants you to tone that blackness down.
So the reverse is kind of true for me when I started Pretend the Ball is Named Jim Crow. So I played baseball for 4 years at the University of Kentucky. My younger brother played 3 years at that hideous mascot of a school down the road, Louisville. JC, hear me? But my and then he got drafted by the Brewers, and he played a few years professionally. My mom and dad, both in the dining room of the house we grew up in, we interrupt this family for baseball season. So baseball's been a huge part of our lives. I coached until our oldest was born, baseball myself. And so baseball has been this thing that I've always told stories about, I've always written about. And when I was a senior in high school, I needed to write a chapbook for my independent study. So I was doing an independent study with Phyllis Schlick, who was my high school English teacher. And Frank X. Walker had just come out with Isaac Murphy, I Dedicate This Ride. So I was going to do a sports historical persona poetry book similar to that around Jackie Robinson. Now I'm 18 years old at the time, and I thought, and I guess I'll try to psychoanalyze myself right here. I thought that there had to be white characters. Because I'm talking about the integration of baseball, and it wasn't mandated by the United States government. Like, say, for example, the integration of schools was. Here, the owners, under the leadership of Happy Chandler, were kind of decided-ish that they were going to allow this one man to play, and then after that, they saw that it was profitable, and then everybody else got to play. Without ever using any of the resources to improve the experiences of the black workers that had kept the Negro Leagues functioning during that entire time. So I start writing these poems about Jackie Robinson, and next thing I know, I've got 10 poems from Branch Rickey, who was the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, or the GM of the Brooklyn Dodgers at the time, and Happy Chandler, who's the commissioner of baseball, both white men, as I'm trying to tell this story about Jackie Robinson being an inspiration for me to play this game that is predominantly white throughout my entire upbringing, throughout college. So I felt like I had to have these white characters telling this black story. And then I take it to Phyllis Schlick, and she tells me that they're bad. And that I needed to find someone else to tell the story. And I don't know, and I've never asked her this question, if part of the reason why it was bad is because I was just telling it from the wrong point of view. But that white gaze, reflecting on it, is 100% what it was that I was trying to capture and what I thought I needed to write. And then after I scrapped that, I actually in the collection I think there's a reference to Uncle Sam a couple of times, but the rest of it, all the characters are black, all the voices are black, and that's just the story that needed to be told. So once I got rid of that, I could actually do the work that was the writing of the book.
I will take the mic. So I have said that I've always written, but I am not what you would call like a traditional writer, in the sense that I went to school for writing, and I actually went to school for opera singing. Opera singer for a really long time. And so while I could not speak to the start of my writing in as far as the white gaze, I will say in developing my voice as a singer, there were parts of my voice that my teachers tried desperately to take out of me, and they would either say it's too dark, or it's too round, or there's no way that you at this age could sound like this. And right, exactly. And I ended up leaving the opera stage, but started teaching voice. And I told myself that I would never, ever, ever teach other Black voices to abandon what was so natural to them. Our bodies reflect our experiences. So it doesn't matter if you had a traditional Black upbringing or where you're from, because of our skin, our experience at your like nuclear experience is the Black experience. So when I finally started to write, there was no question about whose voice was going to be in it, because I was just going to be writing what needed to be on the page. But people will look at your work. I mean, I've been in classes before where people have said, well, why has it got to be like that? Why did you have to mention it being Black? Why couldn't it be something else? Because it can't. Because it can't. And there's no apology. I never, and I got emotional watching that clip of Toni Morrison, because her voice and her cadence reminds me of my grandmother. And my grandmother instilled in me at a very young age to never apologize for your Blackness. My grandmother lived through things that she won't say to me. She won't, I've asked her about her life, and she won't talk to me about it. And so when I sit down to write and to, I just remember it is me, but it's also everyone that comes behind me and everyone else that's in front of me. So me doing anything else other than me is just not a question. So.
Thank you. I actually started out as a journalist in the Navy way back during Vietnam. Women were not allowed to go to Vietnam if they were not nurses on the ships that were outside of Vietnam in the waters. So I was what they call a WAVE, a woman who was accepted for voluntary emergency services. So the men would go and the women would take over the jobs on shore. And I was a journalist for a year of my whole tour, because the white people that were in the Department of Journalism did not like me. I was the only woman of color. And so my mother had to literally help me get out of that position, and I began to work for the aircraft carriers for the media. I went to the University of Southwestern Louisiana, and I studied English and journalism there. The strangest thing was, again, I was the only person of color in the classroom, and my instructor did not like me at all. This is 1968. So I quit and did not get my degree until 2013 when I went to seminary here. I loved being a journalist. I thought it was probably my calling was to be a journalist. And then I was working for Mr. Berry when my husband went overseas. I came here to live with my parents while he was gone for the year in Japan. He was a Marine. And I went to work for Mr. Berry downtown. One day he left for an afternoon, and I wrote Timothy and the Blanket Fairy in an hour. I was so excited. It was about my beautiful little brown son, and I wanted everybody in the whole wide world to read it, and a group called Sunset Press picked it up. It was a traditional publisher at the time. It didn't go anywhere. Didn't go anywhere at all. And to be honest with you, I didn't know why it didn't go anywhere. But there was this beautiful little black boy on the front cover. I'm sure that's the reason why it didn't. Way back in 2002, I developed stomach cancer, and I was writing in those days anything, just something to write a book or to write something down. And I started writing Mint Julep. 2 years into writing Mint Julep, I ended up with stomach cancer, and my cousin called and said, why don't you make it a trilogy and just stop for now, write the first book, stop, get well, and et cetera, which is what I did, and it came out as a trilogy, 2004, 2007, and 2010. In 2019, the publishing company offered me the opportunity to have the trilogy put into one book. And believe me, it is all about my family's Blackness. It has done well. I'm very happy about it. That one I self-published. And I self-published because I did not want to share my royalties with the publishing company. But I didn't realize it would be as hard as it has been. Mint Julep has done well because we really, last year in January, a year ago, it was the book of the month in Los Angeles. I was very excited about that. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. And then I just got an award from Toronto, Maple Leaf Media. I'm not sure what it is yet. They just told me I'd gotten an award. So, Claudia, you may know what that is. But at any rate, and then I wrote The Residents of Alabaster Court. And I wrote it as a book where my people, my family would know that the characters were Black. But I also wrote it so that anybody else could read it and imagine that it was their family as well. So it's done quite well. It came out in 2024, and I love it. I love that story. It's a crime story. And then my son asked me, he's 53, and he said, when are you going to do something with Timothy and the Blanket Fairy again? So last year, Timothy was picked up as well. So I'm very happy about that. But I just wanted to say that it is important that we let them know who we are by our writing. You know, don't be afraid of that. Just write, because that's, I think I was telling someone earlier, writing is my passion. God comes first, my family, and my writing. Thank you.
I want to piggyback on something Nita said about book covers. For all of my Christian publishers, there were these secret meetings about if they should put a Black person on the cover. Sure. I didn't find out about these meetings until later. I was not asked to give any input. I was not told what any concerns were. Ultimately, they did put Black people on the covers of all my Christian novels. However, they did not do well in that marketplace. When Simon & Schuster picked up my novels, they did better with Simon & Schuster, But Simon & Schuster would not put them, like, at the bookstore. You wouldn't have found my books with the Christian books. You'd have found my books with the black books. So that decision was made for me. Publishers are a business. They are going to make the choice that is going to say, hey, this is where it's going to sell. And honestly, they were right, because it wasn't selling. In fact, I don't even think any of my books made it into Christian bookstores, not the novels, because I didn't fit the profile. And so please know, when you are traditionally published, if you happen to write a book with broader market appeal, there may not be a black person on that cover. And I'm sorry to say, Christian publishing is racist. Publishing is racist. So, I need y'all to be aware of that. I need to say to y'all, emerging writers, it's snakes out there. It's people that want to pay you less money because of your beautiful black skin. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It would not do you well. It would not serve you. And I'm here to serve you. So I have to tell you the truth. But even though we've got some future panelists here, I do want Terry and Deidre to share a story that they shared when we were out there, starting with Terry, about anti-blackness. Go ahead, tell them what you told me. What you told me. I can't see you, though. We want to see
You know, I love you so much.
you want to cheer?
I do not. I'm good. Because I'm going to say this and I'm going to sit down. What I was talking to Claudia about is that my biggest battle with writing, because I've been writing since I was 9, but I didn't publish my first book until my early 20s. I'm 35. My biggest obstacle was anti-blackness, but the anti-blackness came from people that looked like me. They were people that I trusted, mainly because I went to church with them, and we were in the prayer circles together, and all of that. And they told me that my erotic romance wasn't from God, and neither was I. And to an early 20-year-old person who was very much so in the church, grew up in the church, I still identify as a Christian, but I'm a little more heathen now. I don't go to church no more. So, it's Vodun, but Vodun. But, it's okay. But yeah, so like at the time, it was very hurtful, it was very damaging. I still feel the impacts of it today. And it took a long time for me to realize that the white gaze was so ingrained in them that they couldn't see what I was doing. And I often, even outside of writing, would get told, "You're very black," by people that look just like me. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And, and I mean, looking back on it, I remember the snide comments about, well, black businesses are, and black movies are, as if they're less. And I didn't believe that. I mean, Tyler Perry is what he is, but I think he suffers from the anti-blackness and virus. But anyway, and so then coming through that, and, I still published, I still did the things. I tried writing not necessarily white characters, but I wrote racially ambiguous characters. Those did not do well at all, because part of writing as a black person is embodying blackness in my writing. And so the ones where the characters were obviously black did very well with black people, because that's my audience, specifically black women. And even here, as I've taken classes and where I'm in classes where I am often the only black person, the only black woman, maybe even the only woman, and I see people tell me, "Oh, why is that not in there?" And I'm like, first of all, it's right there on the page. But also, you're not connecting with it because you're not black. You're not a black woman. You're not understanding all of the things, or a black femme. and you're not understanding all of the things, but also my villains or my annoying characters happen to be white. And because you identify with that person, you're having a problem. And because my monster killed that person, it's a real big problem for you. And so in one story in particular of a class, I had a monster. He killed the 2 white men that came on the trip with the black woman. Because, my black people don't die in these stories. They don't. And so they were like, well, I really like this one guy. Why did you have to kill him off? I'm like, there are no good white men in my stories. Anyway, that was my story.
Thank you. Now we're gonna let Deidre talk that talk.
I guess the way I came into writing, I was in an undergrad program, and it was my white English professor that thought I was an English major, and I was a business major, and I thought she was crazy because I was a non-traditional student. I didn't go to college till I was in my late 30s. And long story less long, it led me to the Carnegie Center. And one of the first editors that I worked with here, she decided to get all the people that she was writing with together, and we were going to have these round tables, and myself and an Indian writer were verbally attacked in that meeting, and there was this huge back and forth, and I stopped coming to the Carnegie Center after that until Claudia came. But going to the University of Kentucky, being in all these rooms where I'm the only black writer, getting the questions that I was getting, because I was older, I'm not gonna say it was better, but I was more mature within me and more confident and self-assured within myself. But I could only imagine what would have happened if I was 19, if I was 20, if I was 21 in these spaces. And then when I got into the MFA, when I got my acceptance into the MFA program there, I was terrified because I'm stepping into this program with giants. And I can tell my undergrad professor, go fuck yourself. I don't know what I'm gonna tell these people in this MFA program or how I'm gonna word it. And I was extremely intimidated and worried and concerned that in order to appease them or to appeal them, or I was gonna have to change my voice. And so I was fortunate enough, my sister was like, Nikki Giovanni's giving a lecture, and I signed you up for it, girl. And I was like, really? And I got to go to this lecture given by Nikki Giovanni, and it was over 200 and something people there, and she only took 2 questions, and of course everybody raised their hand, and I was the one she chose first to ask the question, and it was about my voice and my work. Anybody that's read my work, it's unapologetically black as fuck, and I don't explain shit. I don't feel like explaining it. I use a lot of dialect. It's just where I write from, what comes out, what pours out, and often I don't edit my pieces. It is what it is when it hits the page, unless I feel like it needs to be edited. So I was concerned about going into this program. I didn't know how my mentors would be assigned. I didn't know who my mentor would be, whether they would be, of course, we all want Crystal and Frank. We all ain't gonna get Crystal and Frank. So I was really, really worried about that. At the time, there was a white poet, Julia Johnson, who's brilliant. I love her down. I was worried that she may be my mentor, because although as much as I adored her class, there was nothing she could really teach me. And I needed to grow as an artist. So I got to ask Nikki about, what do I do when I get in this program if they want me to change the way that I write? And Nikki Giovanni said something, and it stuck with me, and I ran with that shit. She said, fuck them. She said, you're already a great writer, or you wouldn't have got in the damn program. And she said, what are you there for? You want the piece of paper? And I said, yeah. And she's like, yeah, because the piece of paper will open some doors for you. You're not there to become a better writer. You're there to get the fucking piece of paper, so fuck them. And she's like, I know Crystal, I know Frank. If you in that program, you're already great. And as Black people, unfortunately and fortunately, you gotta know. I was just telling Marcus, when he performs, I know he knows who he is. He walks in and steps on that stage, and you know that he knows himself down, inside and out. And as Black writers, when we approach our work, you gotta know who you are, and you gotta be able to stand in that and not be swayed. And that is what Nikki kind of taught me. And of course, I still went in with my self-doubt. And those of you that wrote with me, y'all know I was constantly doubting myself. And it was because of the Black women and the Black men that were around me that was like, nah, you that girl. They kept me grounded, and they kept pushing me forward and helped me stay centered in that. But the world is waiting. It is waiting to chew you up and spit you out. So if you are extremely hesitant, trust this. Samar said, you know, what comes out of us is authentically, unapologetically. It just is. Black is not a monolith. We've heard it all the time. Your blackness, my blackness. It is blackness because you are Black. You don't have to write a certain way. You don't have to sound a certain way to be that. But you do have to be confident in who you are as a person on the inside. So what pours out is confident on that page and can't be changed. Your voice can't be altered in any type of way. So that's just kind of what's helped me on my journey.
Thank you, I'm going to say this again. 2025, day one of 47's administration. He said no more Black History Month. Then he went on to try to erase our heroes' contributions. But we will not forget. It's always Black history for us, always. But we've got people trying to erase our stories.
In real time.
In real time, well, we can't let them. We can't let them do it. You don't even have to have a lot of confidence. Just tell the truth. Just be who you are. Writers are some of the most unconfident people. Why? So let's not talk about anxiety. I'm gonna get you, hon. You know, anxiety is not the issue. Authenticity is the issue. If we are not authentic, first of all, Big Granny now, that's passed on, they're gonna be mad. The ancestors gonna be mad. And your niece, and your child, your little cousin, and all these Black writers to be that are going to the library. If you are not authentic, they will not recognize you. They will not have the strength to tell their authentic stories. You know this old Orthodox priest, Black man, storyteller. He said, listen, if we don't preserve our stories, they're going to be gone in a single generation. We can't let that happen. I don't care what the government is doing. I don't even care what publishing is doing. If we have to start just saying our stories. That's where we are right now. This is about surviving. And come on, we've survived everything, right? Mm-hmm. So we got it in our DNA. Yes, cheat code. The cheat code is community. The cheat code to being strong Black writers is being in community.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that when you mentioned that when you were speaking, Claudia Love, is the reason why I had the audacity to put my manuscript out there was because I joined Writing What Is, which is if you don't know that and you are a Black woman or femme, you need to be a part of that group. I had never been in a room full of Black and brown women and femmes who were literally just speaking, writing whatever was, and sharing that in such a very authentic way. I cannot I just cannot stress, if you are not in a community where people are going to look at you and remind you of who you are, and I mean, not like, what you're writing, but like remind you, show a mirror to you and remind you who you are, you have got to find those spaces. Claudia Love does a fantastic job cultivating these spaces here at the Carnegie Center. You do. I know before you were here, I was not here at the Carnegie Center, and that's just the truth. That's just the truth. And so if you don't have those people, and the thing is, in community, you don't have to be friends with everybody in your community, but you have to understand that everybody in your community wants you to win. That's what community is. We all want to win. You don't have to be best friends with everybody. You ain't got to kiki with everybody. But at the end of the day, you know that so-and-so, if I take my writing to the people that are in my community, I know they're going to tell me the truth. I know without a shadow of a doubt, they're going to tell me the truth. So I just want to thank you, Claudia Love, for the work that you do. And then just to remind everybody, and if you don't see the community, make the community. Make it happen. We have the resources, and if we don't have the resources, we will find the resources. But create it. If it's not here, that means that it's in you to make it happen.
Right, I got one.
This is a problem for me with our writing community here, explicitly. We have got to start showing up for each other, and I'm guilty of this too. I know we get caught up in our day-to-day, but if they know that Samar is reading, and they know 30, 40, 50 people gonna show up, Samar gonna get more bookings. If they know that Dorian Hairston is reading, and when Dorian reads, 30, 40, 50 people gonna show up. We have a big enough writing community right here in Lexington of Black writers, but we don't show up for each other the way that I feel like we should. And I feel like a big part of that is marketing. We need somewhere, either whether it be online, through a KBWC email, where everybody sends their stuff to Claudia. Claudia posted, I know once a month I can look at this calendar and I know where everybody's gonna be on what night and what days that I can go. I run into people and I'm like, damn, I didn't know about that. Lisa just told me about something she done. I had no idea. I follow everybody on Instagram. I don't get everybody's posts on Instagram though. That's not always on my feed. And I really feel like a big part of us being more heard, standing more in our truth is knowing that we're supported as far as us showing up for each other at our I'm sorry for...
No, well said, Deidre. Yeah, before I got this job, I wasn't coming to the Carnegie Center either. I don't even want to get into the horror stories. Yes. Lisa is part of why I'm here. Lisa Higgins Ford.
I was the chair at the time, so that's what changed the book.
Yeah, I had given up on Carnegie before Claudia came.
It changed.
Yeah, it did.
Thank you all for your kind words. I'm here to serve. I've been blessed with a servant's heart. I have put a lot of y'all on the stage, some of y'all several times. Put money in your pocket. You're welcome. And got your voices heard where some of you had never even done any public speaking. Got your voices heard on the radio. And I'm going to keep doing that because our voices matter. Black voices matter. We have such a strong lineage. Black people who endured chattel slavery, we are the only enslaved people in history that wrote about their experiences being enslaved. The only in history. We were the first. We have a powerful lineage. So I don't want to tell you horror stories about the microaggressions that happen in this space. And let me tell you, I made it part of my job to call out Carnegie Center when I have to. I may not get the outcome, but I would have said my say. And it's so important. I can't emphasize enough right now to refuse to let our voices die because of a crazy man. Anyway, let's go on to the next question. Let's talk about publishing. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Say something. I think it's really important that we support each other. Very, very important. I was invited to Paris, Kentucky, this women's writers group and so forth. This is several years ago. And they asked me a whole bunch of questions about writing, about publishing and that kind of stuff. And I really felt uncomfortable telling them. But we have to do that. If you know a publisher that publishes certain things, tell your colleague, your writing friend, or anybody that you know. If you know where books are being bought, manuscripts are being bought, share that, because we didn't normally do that. I'm an old woman, I'm going to tell you. We did not do that. We did not share. Not black on black, brown on brown. We did not share. So it's important that we do that we tell each other our business, what we know.
Love it.
I'm loving all the conversations, and so a couple of things. I'm a veteran, and I've been trying to get service-connected disability, Navy too. Well, hold on. Every time they keep sending me to these doctors, they are Caucasian, and they couldn't no way know what I went through in the military, what I go through now, what's residual, what my experience as a black woman has been from the Navy to here. They are white doctors. So that's my first thing I wanted to say. And then with coming to this, doing this, I was very hesitant about talking to the publisher part because there wasn't no black publishers. Is there anything we can do about that? Because I feel real funny. I feel like in order to get my story, you got to get me. And if you don't have a black experience as a black woman, how can you get me? Or at least something we got in common. We have nothing in common. It's gonna be hard for you to get me. So that's how I kind of feel.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So in reference to Deidre's comment, you are right, you are correct. I'm also guilty of that, working on changing it. But I want to start something called Burnt Hair Poetics. I'm going to start something called
There
Burnt
you
Hair
go.
Poetics. And I want it to be something that curates black art in Kentucky and Appalachia. So I'm speaking that into existence. If y'all want to send me your information, I'm going to work on it.
We got a comment in the back.
Good afternoon, everybody. My question is this. Sometimes I sound like an angry black man when I read poetry. Nigga, coon, spit chuckler are used in some of my poetry. So sometimes I have to question myself whether or not to turn the light switch on, turn it off, code switching, right? And we talk about publication, and we talk about gaze of our counterparts, right? For me, I'm trying to reinvent myself for one reason. I don't know how my poetry really sounds. I've been told it's decent, it's nice. But for some reason, there's a click in my head that's code switching for myself to turn it on, to turn it off. I was told I do performance art, which is nice, but I want to tell a story, just like my man, just like you, just like Claudia Love, just like everyone in this room, because we're all poets, because we speak it every day. I'm trying to find my pathway. How do I go about doing that, knowing within the black community, as well as our counterparts, hey, this man gets up here, he talks about a black hardship, how can I get out of that when that's what I see?
While the mic is coming up for our panelists, I want to reiterate being who you are. I am Catholic-ish, and the patron saint of writers is St. Francis de Sales. And he said, be who you are, and be that perfectly well. I am not a fan of code switching. That can be a place of privilege, because a lot of writers are in academic spaces. You know, a lot of people get MFAs for those doors that are going to come open, because you're going to need a job. And a lot of writers teach. It is a bit of a place of privilege to say, I'm not going to code switch. But I don't think you have to code switch on the page. I don't think you have to do it there. That's yours. And I think telling the truth of who you are and what you are is always going to take precedent. If you have stuck in your head what the market's reaction to your work is going to be, then you're going to stay in an anxiety spiral, because the market's really not your friend. Publishing itself is toward the white gaze. So that's what I have to say. Be who you are, Dwayne. You are an amazing writer. Don't doubt yourself. Trust yourself. We all have to learn how to trust our own voice as writers.
People are going to tell you that spoken word is a lesser form of poetry, and that isn't, first of all, it's anti-Black, and second of all, it's an attempt to discourage you from presenting in a form that people don't identify. You are expressing an experience in a form that people cannot put in a box. And anytime people can't put something in a box, it's always, instead of saying, oh man, I can't do something, they're gonna automatically deflect it onto you as if you are the problem. You are not the problem. The one of the most beautiful things about Blackness is our speech, our language, that is intrinsic within us. So the cadence, all of those things. So the form that lives within you, if it lives within you and must speak about the quote unquote angry Black man experience, then people are gonna either have to buckle up or they're gonna have to find somewhere else to be. You are not the problem. So my suggestion would be find your community, find people that you can speak to that are going to reflect your truth back to you. And remember, if you do not see the form there, that's because you are the form. Period.
And I'll just to add, I think so for me, because my first book is, and my only book is about the Negro Leagues. First book so far is about the Negro Leagues, and there's all types of language that ends up inside of the book that I know as the poet, it has to be here. I can't, if this is not an authentic poem, if the language doesn't show up. So all the publisher did was say, all right, well, we'll just throw like a little disclaimer at the front of the book that I don't think anybody ever reads. But I feel good knowing that I didn't compromise that voice that needed, the poem is not the poem unless I say these words. Yeah, like the traveling circus really did say, hit a nigger, win a cigar. I can't change that. That's what the traveling circus said. And that is, any attempt to change that, any attempt to take that away, is to go back to this white gaze that we are in direct opposition to. And that if we don't combat that by telling the truth, we are subjecting, like, we will die. Mm-hmm. And that is what this is, life or death. I wasn't planning on going there, but.
Good stuff.
I just wanted to say that Mint Julep is full of whorehouses, voodoo, black men having babies with white women, white men having babies with black men. There's very little black and black in Mint Julep as far as that's concerned. It's literally a comedy about a whole bunch of slaves taking over the plantation. And I consider it comedy, but
So good. Pick it up if it's over there.
so never, 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 never doubt yourself about what you're writing about. Somebody's out there and they're waiting to hear it.
Thank you, Deidre.
So I actually had 2 points to make, addressed from both of you. One is I always go back to knowing your audience, because even though this may sound controversial, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. Step and Fetchit knew his audience. Step and Fetchit, the actual man, he knew his audience. He knew his audience was white people. He knew what they wanted, and he played it, and he made money off of it. We don't like him, but the man knew what he was doing, right? If he wanted, if Step and Fetchit wanted to play to a black audience, he could have, but he didn't on purpose. Know your audience and play to that on purpose. So it doesn't matter what your language looks like. If you know your audience, they're gonna find you. Also, there are black publishers out there. We don't have a black big five right now, but a lot of black publishers are genre specific. So I know specifically for like sci-fi, fantasy, graphic novels, Milton Davis is doing stuff. Generous Press is big in romance right now. They look for black authors all the time. I mean, obviously, UK Press is very much into literary fiction. So I'm just like, I mean, black publishers are out there. They're just not Penguin, Random House, or HarperCollins.
And the big five, I got one. They buy black books too.
Yeah.
They buy black books. One more thing I want to say. If you know me personally, you have never heard me say the N-word, because I don't say it. But it is in my art. I'm not one of those people that want to reclaim it. Fuck that word.
Yeah.
Listen, all kind of foul things come out of my mouth, but not that. But on the page, it's there. Because I can use that word. Because it's part of our history. And I use it effectively. So try not to police yourself. We are almost out of time. I'm sorry, did you have a question, Lisa?
I just wanted to say something to Dwayne. I think that being an angry black man or angry black woman, that's a label that they put on us to keep us in place. And so I learned how to flip that script. I'm angry because of microaggressions. I'm angry about injustice, and that gives me a space to write from. So it's okay to be angry because that's a natural emotion. And so a lot of times they want to just label us as you're just angry. Yeah, I am angry, and I'm angry for a reason. So don't let that go. Let that be a part of your writing.
Right. You know, we have an opinion, and they call us angry. We just said something.
Right.
We don't smile.
Last advice for black writers.
Last advice?
I mean, as we finish up.
Right. Come back to me.
So I think a lot about like our music. With this, think about gospel music, the blues, jazz, and how each one of those forms of music don't require us to actually or necessarily believe in a specific higher power. You just need to believe in the music, if that makes sense. And I like as we're writing, or what at least this is what I try to do. I try to find a way for my poetry to tap into that spirit and try to get that spirit on the page. And whoever is looking for that, that is my audience, and that is who I am writing for and to. And if it makes money, cool. If it doesn't, that's also cool. I just want to make beautiful art, and I want people who want beautiful art to enjoy the art that I make so that it can heal and it can love and it can just keep us alive for tomorrow, and then we'll deal with tomorrow's problems whenever tomorrow comes. But just keep on putting one foot in front of the other. That's what I think we should be doing all the time.
Amen.
Real quickly, keep writing, keep supporting each other. If you know the answer to the question, tell somebody.
And lastly, go through the no's until you get the yes. You will get so many more no's than yes. Expect the no. It's coming. It's going to come. But also in understanding that the no is there, the opposite of that is the yes. Understand that the yes is always going to come. The yes is within you. The yes was to you writing on the page. Get through the no to get to the yes.
One more thing. Let's talk about Black joy. Let's talk about Black joy,
Yeah.
Black resilience, Black love, and Black art, and how nothing has killed us. You know, we are all still sitting here. Now, we of course lost many. Middle Passage, chattel slavery, the dogs in the water hoses, Black Lives Matter. But all of us are still sitting here. And as an act of resistance, let's hold on to joy. Black joy and Black love and Black art. So let's Dorian got me fired up. Let's talk about it just for a minute. We've only got a few minutes left. Writing for the joy of it. Because our work matters. It doesn't have to be all trauma porn.
No, it definitely does not have to be all trauma porn. My book that's coming out, Blue Violet Hate Spaces, is a compilation of experiences that I have had and reflected on, and some of those experiences have been positive and wonderful and beautiful, and you will see that in my writing, and some of those experiences have not been. I think one of the things I love about being Black is, and there's a book called Black Joy. I'm forgetting who wrote it. Thank you.
From Louisville.
She speaks so well about how we could not exist without the joy, and that the joy is in everything. Even when we're sitting here, we're talking about the microaggressions, there is still joy. And I mean, how many of us could, when we all know different expressions and things, and we're all there's laughter within that pain. That's part of our experience, which I'm proud of. I'm absolutely proud of. So, yes.
I mean, I think about like just and I try to do this. There's a poem in my collection about experiencing all of this racism, and then after a baseball game, you just go to the juke joint across the street. And like, yes, America is trying to kill you, but at the same time,
Title.
yeah, I'm copywriting that right now. But at the same time, we are able to create spaces for each other and for ourselves where we can have a great time, a good time. In all of that, a barbershop, which I haven't been to in a while. All of these things are spaces where we steal or we make, or whatever verb you want to use, joy. And we need to make sure that our poetry continues to, I mean, art should imitate life. And as a result of that, our poetry should, even the traumatic stuff, should have that joy that's holding it together, that love.
Black joy is going to the bookstore for a writer and putting your finger on your own book and pulling it off the shelf. Or a big old box comes and it has your name on it and there's 35 copies of your book. That's Black joy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to say one thing along what Deidre said about supporting each other. And whenever we have the opportunity to share in things that are going on, we have people that we can call on, that we know. to help get their message out, to help their books to sell. So when there's an opportunity, you know, let's just do that. I had an opportunity to go to Cafe Juilliard, one of the, who was it, from our group who had she did the program and invited us to come to be a part of it. You came in late. You know what I'm talking.
Jeez, you're getting
I can't think right now. Yeah, okay. LaTanya, yeah. So, you know, to be, she was, yeah, I think she did, yeah. But I'm just saying that we are each other's resource. So let's use, support, encourage, and promote.
And don't say no to each other.
Yeah.
If somebody approaches you with the opportunity, try not to say no if you can't.
And if you can't, send somebody else.
Yep. Please go to the book table, buy some black books. I love y'all. See you tomorrow.